Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. A group of researchers are trapped in a marine laboratory with genetically modified sharks. Today we will recap the movie, Deep Blue Sea. It was a calm summer night and some couples were enjoying the moonlight on a boat just off the beach. They noticed that the boat was rocking strangely, objects began to roll and fall into the water, until a huge white shark broke the bottom of the boat, trying to devour them in a fury. In the fright, the 4 crew members fell into the water and were unable to climb back up. Lucky for them, they were saved by Carter, a shark handler, who fired his harpoon and managed to immobilize the monster. This particular shark escaped from a marine research base run by Dr. Susan. Due to the event, she received bad news from her investor named Russell. He wants to withdraw his funding as things are getting out of hand. Susan asks for 48 hours, as her search for a cure for Alzheimer's is almost over, and she is sure that in 2 days she will be successful. Russell accepts the condition and the two fly together to the research base in the middle of the ocean. Over there, another shark is coming in for studies. Carter is coordinating its placement in the tank. The investor who just arrived is startled by a man swimming in the tanks with that huge shark chasing him. But it was actually Carter. He knows how to deal with these creatures very well and he just wanted to get a license plate tangled up in the shark's teeth. Russell asks one of the researchers, named Janice, if that shark was the one that had escaped, and she says definitely not. The shark that attacked the couples on the boat was much larger and was housed in a special, isolated tank. Carter appears scolding Tom, another base employee, telling him that if he had closed the security fence the night before, the shark would not have escaped. The problem is that Tom has closed the fence and if they are 2.5 meters tall, there is something wrong going on. Tom released the food into the cage of the modified sharks, and Carter went down the safety cage to see if the animals were feeding. And the worst thing is that the animals are practicing cannibalism with extreme brutality. Carter knew something was wrong with that research and questioned Dr. Susan about creating these monsters. But as he is on probation, she threatens him that he could lose his job, leaving him with no option. The base's control tower receives an alert that a strong storm is approaching with waves greater than 30 feet. Carter took the harpoon to dive again. But Brenda warns the rest of the team to look at the monitors and check if Carter was okay, as she has no visibility and he has already entered the submerged tunnel. He was there to sedate one of the sharks for final research, but 2 of them surrounded the cage and kept hitting and biting the safety fence to burst it. The sharks were also able to attack the surveillance cameras. Carter decided to be bolder and opened the protective gate to go face to face with the monsters. The desperate team called out to him, but he had no answer. The shark lunges at the handler and bursts his oxygen tank. At least he managed to land a shot with the gun and sedated the shark. Now it was just a matter of taking him up through the platform elevator. With the beast theoretically sedated, they perform the entire process of resonance and cardiac monitoring of the animal. Dr. Susan approaches the extraction equipment and the shark gives a jolt that scares everyone. Now she starts the puncture process to remove the mutant shark's brain fluid. Insert the needle, and draw the liquid through the syringe. She does the test by dripping the liquid on a sample of Alzheimer's brain mass and it worked perfectly. The neurons activated again, finally founding the cure. Everything seemed to be going well, until Dr. Jim approaches the shark and has his arm ripped off by the monster. Carter rushes to get the gun and eliminate the animal, but Dr. Susan releases the platform and puts the shark back in the water. The tower requested the presence of air rescue, due to the serious injury of Dr. Jin. They now needed to get him to the surface of the base at the proper location for extraction. But there is a terrible storm outside with huge waves. The helicopter arrived with great difficulty and released the hook to secure the doctor's stretcher. Despite the big waves pushing everyone, the stretcher was caught on the steel cable. But it wasn't their lucky day. The storm pushed the helicopter and the steel cable came loose, knocking Dr. Jim in the water. Even though he was wearing an oxygen mask, he was in the shark tank. The monster grabbed him from under the water and dragged the helicopter along as it was stuck on the cable, throwing the aircraft into the control tower, blowing up the controller, pilots and the entire base structure. Russell notices something coming towards the laboratory glass. When everyone looks, they realize it's Dr. Jin being dragged away by the demonic shark. He is thrown alive against the supposedly armored glass. However, the structure could not withstand the various cracks and exploded completely, flooding the laboratory. The group managed to escape through the door with the hatch system and cordoned off that area. The problem is that now they can't go up to the surface. The elevator is disabled due to flooding and the access door to the stairs is flooded. So Carter's plan is to literally go further down the base's corridors to find a ladder that leads to the surface in another sector. Meanwhile, the preacher cook, who lives with his parrot on his shoulder, is trying to contact someone. Suddenly, his parrot simply runs away scared. He has stopped listening to a noise coming from the stairs and a giant wave takes over the whole sector, dragging the preacher violently. He keeps trying to talk to his parrot, which has escaped to the ceiling, but soon becomes the target of one of the insane sharks that manages to enter the flooded corridors and starts chasing the preacher. He desperately swims into the kitchen and arms himself with a powerful and lethal frying pan. Luckily, the shark veered off course and didn't go to the kitchen. Up there, people are still struggling to move forward. Some doors are exploding with so much water pressure and shooting bolts like gunshots. As the water managed to get into more of that corridor, now they had to escape to the maintenance room and lock the hatch. Once inside, Russell questions why sharks are smashing through doors and attacking people for sheer pleasure, and we discover that Dr. Susan violated the main rule of scientific research, not to perform genetic modification on animals. With that, the sharks became true deadly machines for pure fun. The group decides to advance to the submarine room to try to escape from there. The problem is that the transport is totally destroyed, it won't work to escape that way. So Russell grabs some wetsuits so they can try to get to the surface via the outside tanks. The preacher is still having serious problems in the kitchen. Armed with an axe, he decides to climb the shelves to stay away from the water, and his parrot gives him a huge scare. The animal is standing on top of a floating pot. The preacher tries to reach out and grab his friend, but the shark appears and attacks the animal. The monster came at the preacher, who had now fallen off the shelf. He needs to hide in the industrial oven to protect himself. And the worst of it is that the shark managed to crash into the button and activate the oven. So as not to be roasted to death, the preacher used the axe to cut a hole in the ceiling and exit through the oven above. He jumps over the shark and, uttering his words of revenge for having lost his talking parrot friend, threw a lighter into the oven, blowing up the damn shark. The team in the submarine room is arguing non-stop as they each come up with a different plan to escape. Russell imposes himself on the situation and starts lecturing them, saying they should unite. But while giving his motivational speech, a shark jumps out of the tank and pulls him into the water. He is torn apart by the monster duo. Now they need to get out of there as soon as possible. In addition to the sharks, the structure will not withstand the weight of the water invading more and more. The problem is that when opening the main hatch, the pressure is suddenly changed, causing the water to quickly start to flood the entire underground facility. In this sector there is an emergency ladder to the surface. As the girls start to climb, the guys dove in to lock the door and stop the rising water level. Arriving at the top, Carter decides he will go down again to open another door and fill the tower with water so they can go up faster before the shark arrives. Which doesn't make any sense. After all, the shark managed to break the door and was already swimming down there. Filling with water would only make it easier for him to reach them on the stairs. Well, when the door is opened, the water starts to rise faster. However, as the walls are giving way, the ladder comes off and collapses with everyone clinging to it. But Dr. Janice ended up falling into the water. Carter was hanging upside down from the ladder in an attempt to help her, but the shark caught her by the legs and carried her to the bottom. Now they are without the ladder to climb and are totally trapped. It would all be over if it weren't for the preacher cook. With a makeshift rope made of rags, he saved his friends from that place. Looking at the map of the structure, Tom remembered that it was possible to redirect the generators to free up the ladder to the surface. It would be an interesting plan for them to escape. But it won't be easy. He and Carter need to go to the emergency hatch together now. Everything is flooded, so access is very difficult. Carter asks Tom to wait a little while, as he's going to dive in and check out the place. Only the shark was right there, sneaking up. Carter started to descend deeply through the flooded stairs and gets a horrible scare with Dr. Jim. The man desperately returns to the surface and nearly kills Tom with a heart attack. Now the duo decide to dive together to activate the generators. Tom flipped the panel switches and everything seemed fine. If it weren't for that huge shark coming up behind him. The man is captured, electrocuted, shaken and split in half. A deadly combo. Now it was just a case of Carter going to the hatch and opening it to exit that flooded stairwell tunnel, and for some reason, the shark missed the attack on him. Carter manages to get out through the tunnel and gets help from the preacher to get up. The problem is that Dr. Susan is not there, and even the preacher has no idea where she has gone. Susan is walking down the corridors in waist-deep water to get some files from her research back in the office. She even tries to lock herself inside that sector. She just didn't count that she locked herself with the monster inside. When she took the item from the closet, she was startled to see a shark in front of her, but it was just a study corpse. But there was another fin approaching to attack the doctor. While trying to escape the monster on top of a bookcase, she saw that above it were some power cables. She took off her clothes, climbed on top of them to insulate contact with water and metal. When the shark approached, she threw the energized cable at the animal, causing an immense electrical discharge, finishing off the monster once and for all. Finally, the three friends get together again, and now comes the final escape mission that is sure to be insane. Go up 18 meters into the water, with a shark on the loose outside, with the risk of the lung exploding in the chest due to the extreme variation in pressure. Before opening the hatch to the external tank, they need to fill the room completely with water to equalize the pressure. No longer able to breathe, Carter opens the outer hatch and using the life vests they climb out towards the surface. To distract the shark that is out there, they use a fire extinguisher turned on to spin around in the water. The critter is drawn directly to him, giving the group the time they needed to get up there. The three managed to arrive almost out of breath, but they weren't sure. The shark dragged the preacher to the bottom of the tank. To try to defend himself, he used his crucifix and hit the monster right in the eye. This caused the animal to release him and Carter was able to take the preacher out of the water. Despite leg injuries, he is still alive. If the last modified shark escapes through the fence and into the sea, it will be a catastrophe. And he is trying to do just that. Therefore, it is necessary to end this monster. Carter had one more of his plans. Use the gunpowder of the flares to fill the harpoon capsule, which when hitting the shark, will be connected to a steel cable that they must connect to a battery, completely exploding the monster. The beast was trying to escape at all costs and Carter wouldn't be able to hit it moving so much. Then Dr. Susan decides to become live bait. She cuts her palm and throws herself into the water. The blood immediately attracts the beast. The woman didn't even have time to run away. The shark finished her off in seconds. Carter is in the water as he tried to save Susan from the inevitable. The shark comes with teeth ready for another brutal bite. But the guy is faster and surfs the fish's fin. Now is the time for the preacher to harpoon the monster. Carter yells for him to shoot soon. And the harpoon went straight for the fin, but Carter got stuck too. He yells again, telling him to put the steel cable on the battery. The shark is about to escape. The preacher touches the cable to one of the poles and the fish explodes into thousands of pieces. And luckily, Carter was free at the last moment. Finally, the three modified sharks had died. The two friends await rescue, which, as usual, arrives when the monsters have already been defeated. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.